Welcome to our program from the archives, the Florida Sentinel Bulletin Collection. My name is Chris.
Hi, my name is Glennis.
Hey, Glennis, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing, Chris?
Good. Glennis is going to be presenting here in just a moment, but I wanted to just introduce her and say welcome to everyone. This program is part of Archives Awareness Week, which is running right now from July 11th to July 17th. And to find out more about some of our resources and programs and other items, you can go to our landing page at hcplc.org/archivesawareness. And I'm going to post that in our chat section. There's also a chat section you should notice in your control panel. You can grab that link. We're going to post another link in a little bit that Glennis will mention about some more research resources. So. All right, so moving on to our next slide. All right, this program is also presented in partnership with the City of Tampa Archives Awareness Week, which is also running at the same time. Our landing page has a link to their archives, so we invite you to head on over there and see a lot of the archives that they have, as well as some other links to some local history archives and exhibits and resources. All right, so now I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to hand things over to Glennis and let her do her presentation.
Thank you, Chris. So we're going to start with just a book shout out, and it's Eye on the Struggle, Ethel Payne, the First Lady of the Black Press, and that's by James McGrath Morris. And this is a great book, and if you're interested in African Americans in the media, African Americans in journalism, you should definitely check it out. Ethel Payne was known as the First Lady of the Black Press. She was a longtime Chicago Defender columnist and the first Black woman to join the White House press corps and the first Black female commentator to be hired by a national network, which was CBS. So now we're going to start the presentation. So today, I'm going to give an overview of the history of the Florida Sentinel Bulletin newspaper, the legacy of the Andrews family, and an overview of the Florida Sentinel Bulletin Collection. And that collection is located at the C. Blythe Andrews Jr. Public Library in East Tampa on MLK. So we're going to start talking about the Andrews family, which is a pillar in Tampa's African American community. Some well-known members of the family include C. Blythe Andrews Sr. and his two sons, C. Blythe Andrews Jr., who was a publisher and businessman, and who this library is named after, and Dr. William Billy Andrews II, who was a physician and one of the earliest African American physicians in the area. So on your screen, there's a timeline of the paper, and the thing to know about it is that C. Blythe Andrews Sr., the father of C. Blythe Andrews Jr., he founded Tampa's Florida Sentinel Bulletin newspaper, which has historically been one of Florida's most important African American newspapers. It documented Black life, and it was especially important during segregation and the civil rights era. Something to know is that newspapers in the area were segregated, especially from the 1920s onward, where they were highly segregated. For example, African American obituaries and events didn't appear in the Tampa Tribune. And the Tampa Times, which was the night paper, sometimes did have stories about African Americans, but it was just very hit or miss, and it didn't have like obituaries in it for sure. So the only place to get obituaries, wedding announcements, and things like that is in an African American newspaper. So in 1919, William W. Andrews, who was the father of C. Blythe Andrews Sr., started a newspaper, which is called the Florida Sentinel in Jacksonville, Florida. And then in December 1945, his son, C. Blythe Andrews Sr., decided that he would go into the newspaper business like his father, and he did that at 1511 Central Avenue in Tampa, Florida. And that was where the first office for the newspaper was located. And then in 1959, Sr. bought the Tampa Bulletin, which was an African American Tampa newspaper, which unfortunately, I think right now you can only find like one page. I've looked everywhere. I've only been able to find one page still in existence. So hopefully one day someone somewhere will find a bunch of Tampa bulletins and we can get that scanned. But as of right now, there's only one, I think, page that still exists from that Tampa bulletin. And that was the earlier African American newspaper. So in 1959, Sr. bought it and he merged it with his Florida Sentinel. And that's how you get the Florida Sentinel Bulletin. Both those newspapers merged. And then in 1977, C. Blythe Andrews Jr. became editor-in-chief after his father's death. And then in 1996, S.K. Andrews and C. Blythe III took over the newspaper. And then in 2019, about 118 bound newspaper volumes from around 1945 to 2010. We don't have every edition of the paper. We don't have like every single year in that time period, but we do have many issues, and they were moved to the C. Blythe Andrews Jr. Public Library. And this is a new building that replaced the previous building that was here for a couple of decades. So 2019 to 2001, in May, we made 2 years in the new building. So, and here I got some wonderful pictures, and you can see C. Blythe Andrews Sr. and C. Blythe Andrews Jr. in the office of the Florida Sentinel Bulletin, and then C. Blythe Andrews Jr. and his 2 of his children and an associate in the other photo. And then some more photos. You can see Florida Sentinel Bulletin first office. That's what we talked about, and on Central Avenue. And then another photo of 2207 East 21st Avenue in Ybor City. And that's where the current office of the Florida Sentinel Bulletin is located. I'm not sure. It just stopped. Sorry about that. Let me just. Okay. Here is, so some more about the family legacy of the paper. And the thing to know is that the Florida Sentinel Bulletin is more than just a newspaper, because it's really tied up with the legacy of the Andrews family. And the first thing, Mr. Andrews, the senior, was part of the Central Life Insurance. He was the executive. And I found this wonderful picture over here on my right from the library's Berger Brothers photographic collection, which is our historic photo collection of him in his office when he was an executive at the Central Life Insurance. And that's really important because that business built wealth in the African American community through shareholders and executives. And then the family and the newspaper is also associated with the Lily White Security Benefits Association. And that was an association where members paid into a fund to pay for burial benefits, and over time it was extended to other healthcare benefits. And the thing to know about the association, even though it was for, like I said, burial benefits and healthcare benefits, it also was part of the community. So there was community parades and picnics, and that was a really big part of the local African American community here. Also, Lily White commonly donated money to African Americans who lost like homes in like race riots in Florida. They helped pay for their members' losses. It was like a type of insurance. Also, the organization paid for the burial of Martin Chambers, who, when he was killed by police in 1967, led to the Tampa race riots. So they paid for his burial as part of like charity to the community. And also part of Lily White was the Lily White Hospital, which was built in 1948. And here on the left-hand side on the screen, I have this postcard where you see Mr. Andrews wearing his Lily White hat, and then there's a picture in there of the hospital and the temple, which he was really proud of and the association was really proud of. And that hospital was only the second hospital available in Tampa for African Americans. So a lot of people, when they come to the library and they see anything but the Lily White Hospital, they say, oh, I was born in that hospital, or my parents were born in that hospital. A lot of people still remember that hospital. And then the family was also associated with the Rest Haven Nursing Home, which was really one of the first of its kind for African Americans. And then they were also associated with real estate. They were prominent landowners and landlords. And for example, the College Hill Library, which was later renamed the C. Blythe Andrews Jr. Library, the land for it was originally donated by the Andrews family. So now let's learn a little bit about the room. And this is a picture of the Florida Sentinel Bulletin Collection room, and outside of it, you can see the bound volumes of the newspaper. We have a reference collection here too. So here's some books inside, and I put just the mission that it's to collect, manage, digitize, and preserve the Florida Sentinel Bulletin newspaper and related materials to increase access to the public and researchers. So the collection, we have a reference book collection, we have the bound volumes of the newspaper, the Florida Sentinel Bulletin. We also have some of the newspaper on microfilm. We have some bound volumes of Ebony magazine from 1968 to 2015. We don't have every issue, but they're wonderful to look at. We do have some Jet and Ebony magazines on microfilm. And then for technology, we have a digital microfilm scanner, so you can look at microfilm. We have a HoverCam camera, so you can take photos or images of some of the books. You don't hurt the spine of any of the volumes. We do have a flatbed scanner, and then we also have like a Ricoh printer. And then for displays, we have about a cabinet and then some posters, as well as some realia of photographs of the family, Mr. Andrews, some medals that belong to Mr. Andrews, some of his cameras, because he was an early photographer for the newspaper, especially for sports. We have some of them on display. And then I just wanted to let everyone know that in the hcplc.org, which is the library's website, there are many digital resources which you might be interested in because they're related to researching African American life. And we have an oral history resource which is really good. It's called Our Lives, Our Legacies, the Hillsborough Black Experience, which was an initiative to preserve stories of African American residents in Hillsborough County. and that's an excellent resource. We also have our historical photo collection, which is more than, which includes buildings, people, just so many different things. It has both commercial life as well as houses, everyday people, farms, lots of different subjects. It was taken by the Berger brothers, who were the premier sort of commercial photographers in the area. African American photos make up a small amount of those photos in the collection, but that's really the only place to get historical African American photos for the most part from the Tampa Bay area is in this collection. And then we have a really great database called ProQuest Historical Newspapers, the Black Newspaper Collection. And within it currently, they keep on adding things to it, but right now currently there's newspapers from 1893 to 2010. They have about 20 publications, including some well-known names: the Atlanta Daily World, the Baltimore Afro-American, and the great, Chicago Defender, which is probably one of the most well-known African-American newspapers in the country. And then the New York Amsterdam News. So this is a great resource. If you have a library card, you can definitely access it from home. I've looked up different historical events, and it's just amazing to read a primary source, firsthand sort of what's happening in history, and you really get a better understanding what it was really like on the ground. So ultimately, the Florida Sentinel Bulletin, is an important newspaper with a unique history, and it contains a wealth of community memory. And definitely, to get more resources on local African American history, visit our special collections libraries: the C. Blythe Andrews Jr. Public Library, the Robert W. Saunders Senior Public Library, and the Florida History and Genealogy Library, located inside the John F. Germany Public Library on the 4th floor. That's the one downtown on Ashley. That's the library downtown on Ashley. So thank you so much for coming to my presentation today. I hope you learned a little bit more about the room.
All right. You want to come back on camera, we can do our Q&A portion. This is the time when you can post your questions in the question section. And again, if you're watching on a phone or tablet, there should be a question mark icon. And now we can go on to the Q&A. That was a great presentation, Glennis. Thank you for sharing some of the history and a little bit about what you have on offer there at the C. Blythe Andrews location. So if someone's asking how to contact someone who can provide information about the Florida Sentinel Bulletin Collection, how do they do that?
Sure. The best way is either you can call the library's main number and ask to talk to our contacted to the C. Blythe Andrews Junior Public Library, and then we can answer your question or take your information, or you can walk in and we can help you.
Okay, great. Someone wants to find out more about our library's African American historical resources.
Sure.
Where would they do that?
Sure. So we have a page, and I wrote it down so I would say it correctly. It's hcplc.org/research/African-American.
Okay, I'm going to post that to our chat section. So if anyone wants to copy that link, hcplc.org/research/African-American. All right, that is in the chat section. So if you want to grab it and copy it and save it somewhere, great. So is that what kind of resource on that page? There are resources for different databases.
Well, it just has links to some of the databases I talked about and different resources, and then it It has like the contact information for each library and what's a little
Okay,
special about the different special collections. It's just an all one area, so it's very useful.
excellent. All right, someone says, I recently discovered Family Search managed by LDS. Do you have any people who are knowledgeable about that resource platform?
Yeah, so I mean, you can come here. I would say, and I definitely can help because I spent most of my career in genealogy,
Yes.
um, as well as Saunders could get you started. If you want to probably have like in-depth help, um, I would definitely also look at the Florida History and Genealogy Library. That's
Mhm.
at the fourth floor of the John F. Germany Public Library on 900 North Ashley,
Yes.
because we have one of the largest genealogy collections in the Southeast on that floor.
Right.
As well as a local, they have a full Florida history section, which has a Tampa section, which is
Right.
very good. Like, so it just depends.
Yeah.
If you just want to get started, definitely, I can definitely get you started. But if you're gonna need probably in-depth help for a while,
Mhm.
then that's, there they have people to help you with like genealogy
Okay. Great.
specifically.
Thank you. You mentioned the name Lily White earlier, and someone says that's an interesting name. Is that named after a real person? They're asking.
No, there was a Lily White, I guess, movement uh, during this time. I guess, there's different rumors of why, but I think it's like white related to burial and death and things like that. So I think that's why it went together, because it started out as a burial association. And what
Mhm.
people don't realize today is that before there was like Social Security and Medicare and things like that,
Right.
people had to join these associations to sort of to give themselves insurance. And it tended to be at the turn of the 19th century that different ethnic groups made their own groups. So there's still today some Jewish burial associations.
Uh-huh.
And Lily White, for people who, I don't think no new members can join, I don't think, but for people who already are part of it from their family, they're still in it. So it's a
Okay.
burial association where you're like basically paying in. And then, when you pass away, they take care of your burial costs and things like that. But like I said, for the Lily White, it grew from more than just burial costs. They
Yes.
helped you like nursing home and other things like that,
Okay.
and healthcare because they had a hospital.
Right. All right. Well, thank you for answering that. Let's see. We have a few more questions coming
Sure.
in. Let's see. What does this one say? Oh, they're asking if this presentation will be available again. And yes, at the top I mentioned, for those of you who didn't hear, this is being recorded and will be posted to our YouTube channel. And I'll go ahead and post that link in there. But there's another question. While I'm posting that, there's another question. So you may have mentioned this earlier, and I apologize, but does the Andrews family still publish and run the Florida Sentinel Bulletin?
Yes, they do. It still comes out once a week.
Oh, okay. Yes, we get those in the library. I know that. I know that's true. Okay, so I'm posting sorry, I'm just making sure it's right. This is our YouTube channel in the chat sections for people who want to watch this again later. And if you have any more questions, feel free to post them here. I guess while we wait, I'll go ahead and let folks know that if they want to contact the library directly with questions about what was covered in the presentation or any library question, you can call the number here on the screen, 813-273-3652, or you can go online at hcplc.org/contact. And you can also learn about our Archives Awareness landing page, which we mentioned at the top at hcplc.org/archives awareness. And of course, you can find our calendar of events at hcplc.org/events. All right, let's see. Do we have any more questions before we end our presentation? Let's see here. There's more questions about the other presentations that we have. The recordings will be posted between 1 to 2 weeks after to our YouTube channel. So the URLs there in the chat section, along with the other URLs that we posted regarding the genealogical and research resources. So if there's no more questions, I want to tell Glennis, thank you for this wonderful presentation. It was excellent. And we recommend, go on by the Blythe Andrews branch and take a look at this collection. There's a lot there. So thank you everyone who joined us this evening. I hope you all have a great night. And we thank you for coming, and we'll see you all very soon. Have a good evening, everyone.
Bye.